Welcome to The Space Between, a podcast about seeking and finding alignment. I'm your host, Josh Scott, and I'm grateful that you've joined me for another conversation. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of The Space Between. I'm Josh Scott, and I'm joined today by my dear friend, Melissa Greene. Hi, Melissa.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being on this episode.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
So we'll start, just let you introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are. They have actually already heard about you. I'm sure everybody already knows you. But
Please.
They heard about you on this podcast. The tens of listeners and my mom have heard about you because Kim Grant, who I talked
to, sweet Kim,
said some very nice things about you.
Sweet Kim. First, I want to make note of your swanky jazz music in your intro. I really like it.
So that's my friend Adam.
I like it. So I'm Melissa. Who am I? I'm a mom and a wife, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm actually redoing my website currently, and I've been trying to think of words to describe myself, and I think probably the word that I feel most comfortable with is spiritual leader right now, as far as describing the work in which I do. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of other things, and those are still a part of my life. I was a singer and an artist. I was officially an ordained reverend and pastor, and here I am doing new things. Which I want to talk about today. Also, you're a person that I remember on Twitter. I think Brian McLaren said you were like the preacher of your generation or something like that. It was like He said a really kind phrase about me. He really did. I mean, which means so much.
But he's right.
Well, thank you.
He's right. You're pretty incredible at it.
I enjoy communication, however I can do that. So whether that's one-on-one, sitting down with people, or teaching, preaching, or singing.
That's the interesting thing because when I met you in your role as a pastor, and you had been an award-winning contemporary Christian artist as part of a group.
Talking about those tens of people, yeah. I was a successful artist in Christian music with the group. It was called Avalon, which if you grew up in the South or if you grew up evangelical or listening to contemporary Christian music, you might have heard of Avalon.
Yeah, I think everybody's heard of Avalon.
Not everybody. It's my favorite thing to now get posts from people. Especially people, you know what happened? It typically ends up being posts of people that are maybe a little tipsy at parties wanting to sing me their version of Testify to Love. I get them more than you would imagine that I get them. They record themselves. Once they realize that is what Avalon's saying and that is how they know me, it's when they're tipsy at a party, they've recorded themselves with friends singing Testify to Love.
I cannot tell you the number of times I have been in groups that have done interpretive dance we called it movement.
Yeah. Oh, right.
/ sign language.
Yeah.
Demonstrations.
Yes.
I don't know what you call that.
Yeah, it was all of it. Sometimes miming also.
Oh.
Yeah, and Testify to Love is a great song. You know, there's lots of songs that I either recorded or sang as a part of Avalon or just sang growing up. And that's one of the songs that I'm like, oh, I still believe that.
Yeah, that's still a good thing.
Yeah, that's still really powerful, strong lyrics.
So when I met you, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew Avalon, but I didn't know. So I met you, and the thing I knew about you is you're a really incredible preacher. And then I heard you sing and I was like, oh, she can do that too.
Wow.
So that's a pretty good, I feel like a one-trick pony.
Please.
Like a horse has 3 legs maybe and just can't, I don't know. Anyway.
Stop. Always. No, I'm tired of my friend Josh speaking down about himself. Okay.
I'm just recognizing. So I talked to my friend Charlie about he's switching careers and he's it's a similar job, but he's working for Caterpillar and he's going to be talking to people about joy, employees about joy. So similar, lovely. It's still pastoral work.
Yeah.
But we were having this conversation, like, if I think about doing something else with my life, like, there are very few things that I can go, oh, I could do that, like, right away I could do, like, I can make coffee.
Josh,
But I'm not like a business person.
I'm going to
you know
flip
what I mean?
this microphone around.
Don't flip the microphone around.
You are a writer, an incredible writer. You're an incredible speaker. You're an incredible teacher. You just happen to do all those things within a church context now.
This is not about
but
me.
But if one day that changes, there's plenty of other things you will do and can do.
This is my interview
anyway.
Of you, not your. So, anyhow, you have this new community Imaginarium, which I want to get to because that's really some amazing things you're doing. But I thought we would begin sort of at the beginning. You've been a person involved in faith work. I'm sure, like me, for like your whole adult life.
Yeah.
You've given your youth to this, like I have. So, how did that journey begin for you? How did you wind up in this space?
I mean, I was born into it, honestly, and I used to be fearful of saying, like, it used to be you needed to say the answer, like, I accepted Jesus at this point and decided to be a Christian.
Because you couldn't be born into it.
Right. That would be devaluing the experience. But now, looking back, I can clearly say I was born into it, as so many of us were, not only in the West, but in the South specifically. So my mom, my parents were Christians, and I grew up going to church, like moment one. And church in the South, I grew up in Florida, as so many of us maybe, not grew up in Florida, but grew up in the church context where it was, you're there 3 days a week. I mean, you're there Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. Even we would be a part of sometimes Monday night visitation. Right?
Oh, like door to door?
Yes, where you'd come learn.
Did you like that back then?
Yeah, whenever I did it, I liked it because I'm a super outgoing, always have been person. I like to meet new people. I like to talk to people. I would like to teach people. So for me at the time, I'm teaching them how to get out of hell. Thank the Lord. Yeah, so I grew up in it. So that's my context. And I remember I got saved, accepted Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior. That's the language we would use. At 6.
Wow.
6. I remember the night. Like it's ingrained in my memory. It was at an Awanas night. So Baptist the church.
So you were in Awana?
Oh yeah, I was in Awana. So we had Awanas growing up. And again, I think that was a Southern Baptist thing. But they would always do an invitation at the end of every Sunday school, at the end of every Wednesday night, at the end of every church service, obviously. So I remember this man, his name is Rick. I wish I could remember his last name. He was a police officer. I'm still friends with him on Facebook. Keep in touch with his family. But he was one of the leaders. And I remember thinking he was a good-looking man. An attractive man, whatever. I was drawn to him. And I'm a 6-year-old, but I remember being drawn to him. And he gave the invitation that night. And I remember going down and accepting. But all of those factors were a part of it. Like, I really liked him as a teacher and a leader. And just, yeah. So when he did it, I went down and accepted. And I remember my mom, I think they questioned if it was too early or not. But I got baptized shortly after that.
So it wasn't about fear in that moment for you.
I mean, fear was rampant.
Right, it's just in the air,
conversation.
Right?
Yeah, so the hell factor was always there. But I can't. What stands out in my mind about that night was more about my connection with that leader, less about I was fearing hell. But I got bought into the whole deal deeply and quickly. And I talked about heaven so much that my mom would even tell me later that her and my stepdad Rick were worried that I may even try to take my life because I wanted to get to heaven, to be with Jesus. Like I would talk about it so often. And so
the night I went down front at a revival, my grandfather was preaching, but it was a different church. So the other pastor got up during the invitation and said, if you die tonight, and the odds are somebody in this room is going to die tonight. And I was like, I know he's talking about me. It's going to be me. It's going to be me. And so that for me, like the idea of heaven even was fearful.
Sure.
Like I didn't want to go anywhere. I'm like 11. I just want to stay here.
Right. No, that brings, I remember what was the movie? A Thief in the Night?
Yes.
Like these scary rapture movies.
Yes.
that our youth groups showed us. And again, maybe with the most naive and best intentions, right? I can understand that now as an adult, as I'm understanding our culture and these institutions that we grew up in. But those were scary movies. And you're reading those tracts and memorizing, even the tracts that we memorized. I was a part of, so we went to a huge mega church, Baptist mega church. And so we had huge youth groups, like middle school had 150 kids and high school had like 300 kids, like huge.
Wow.
And so within that, then there's these, after you get out of Awanas, you went into, the middle school was called True Vine and the high school was called Solid Rock. Those were like the names of our youth groups. Anyways, they had everything. You were doing gymnastics and singing groups and karate, and then drama. And then we'd go out on ministry outings, like maybe once a quarter. I forget what the timing was, but there was always major mission trips in the summer or ministry trips, where we would go tour for a week and perform gymnastics. Like you'd put on a show.
So was somebody in the church teaching you gymnastics?
Oh yeah, like they had. Oh yeah, you're brought in. You're in a gymnastics class, a taekwondo class, all these drama class, the singing. We're being taught and learning excellence in these ways. But it was excellent, so we could go do ministry with them.
So you could break a board and then tell people about Jesus.
100%. We had a taekwondo routine. To
Did you know
Carmen's
taekwondo?
the champion. No, I wasn't in the taekwondo. I was in the gymnastics. But
Okay.
the taekwondo team, because it would be like an hour performance.
The champion.
The champion. Do you remember this? And
I have been Jesus in the champion more times than I've ever. I think the only thing I've done more than be Jesus in the champion was be Jesus in Thank You by Ray Boltz.
Yeah, Ray Boltz. Oh my gosh. Oh, now you're making me think of Watch the Lamb by Ray Boltz. All these songs. Okay, so imagine, if you will, we didn't have the dancing or the movement. We had songs of taekwondo performances to the champion. There was also maybe This Blood. There was definitely a Substitutionary Atonement Carmen song that we sang to or performed to. Anyways, so they've got like people dressed in white, what are they called? Dojos? Is that what they're called?
Dojo is
where
gi.
you go.
A gi.
Okay, whatever. Whatever it is. I wasn't in it, but I remember. One of them, or the half of them would wear white and the other half would wear black because they're representing the devil and the demons. And then they'd fight together until, obviously, the white
It's very Karate
prevails.
Kid.
It is. But also Jesus and Satan, and Jesus wins, obviously. And then we'd give an invitation. And, of course, I would be the singer that sang the invitation. So these are my childhood memories. So fear, but talking about fear, I mean, fear was rampant. We were trying to tell people in every way that we could, you're going to hell. And
Time's short.
yeah,
You're in trouble.
yeah. So that's the context in which I grew up. Yeah.
It's so funny how you grew up in Florida, I grew up in Kentucky, and it's really, we didn't have taekwondo, but we did ministry teams where we
Right.
had people, like we had puppets.
Right.
People-
I feel like we had a puppet ministry.
Puppet for the Lord.
Right, yes.
I actually saw the other day, like somebody was
for the Lord.
advertising that their church, it's not even here, but somewhere, like, we have an awesome puppet ministry. It's like,
Right.
Still,
Right.
2018, we're still
Puppets.
doing the puppets. So
Let's not be a hater of puppets.
I'm not a
Josh.
hater of puppets. They just kind of freak me out a little
All
bit.
are welcome.
Even puppets. So I guess the point is, not even in the same area, but very much, it's just the evangelical air you breathe.
Oh, right.
And you never, in some ways, didn't question it. I didn't. I did internally, but you could never be like, hey, why do I have to say this?
Right. And I wish I could remember more clearly, but it was interesting because I grew up in this megachurch context where it was that. I was breathing that evangelical air. I love that analogy that you just said. I also went to a public school, though, and the majority of my friends were not in church.
Really?
Close friends, yeah.
Were you not told to be leery of?
I was told, but for whatever reason, I was able to compartmentalize maybe both those worlds. However, I was the girl that took my Bible to school, and of course it was a
Teen study
big Bible. Well, once I got into high school, yes,
Yeah.
but before that, it was big, pink, precious moments with the pictures. So I was that girl. I was that girl that tried to start prayer meetings, early. I was the one helping lead See You at the Pole. So it wasn't that I stopped considering myself as a Christian.
Right.
But somehow I wasn't, I think when I was around that friend group and in my environment, I was the fear context and the hell